Rugby league sainthood has been bestowed upon generations of fortunate players, staff and fans. St Helens Rugby Football Club was there at the beginning as founder members in the historic split from traditional rugby union in 1895. In the first year of the second century of the game's existence, the modern-day Saints celebrated the launch of a new era by lifting the first ever European Super League title. They added the Rugby League Challenge Cup for good measure to achieve the club's first Cup and League double for 30 years. But the road to glory, well worn since the 1950s, was originally a track of turmoil. Saints teams in the early years had to defend against the opposition on the field and withstand financial pressure off it. Having graduated to top-class status during the first 100 years of rugby league football, Saints have entered the new dawn of Super League as market leaders. The demands of the league's master plan, framing the future, are being met, and the Saints ended the 1997 European Super League with a club record 5th successive appearance in a major final. Earlier in the year, success-hungry Saints had experienced Wembley triumph for a second consecutive year, the first time Saints had retained the 13-a-side code's most coveted knockout trophy. Credit for the beginning of the club is given to William Douglas Herman, who, being of German extraction, became affectionately known as Herman the German. Herman had been an outstanding student at the Royal College of Chemistry in London before joining glassmakers Pilkington Brothers, where he became head chemist. His passion for the sport nagged him to try and establish a rugby club, so he placed an advertisement in the St Helens newspaper, which resulted in a meeting being held at the Fleece Hotel in Church Street, St Helens, on the 19th of November 1873. This attracted many of the town's most eminent gentlemen. Under the chairmanship of Douglas Herman, rules were drawn up and a club formed. By the end of the 1870s, a team calling themselves the Eccleston Rangers had taken the place of William Douglas Herman's originals, later to become known as the St Helens Rangers. The team played as amateurs, leading a nomadic existence as they moved from field to play their fixtures. Their early headquarters included the Old Abbey Hotel and, in 1889, the Lingham Hotel, and then the Duke of Cambridge. By 1890, the club had moved from their Denton's Green pitch to the Promised Land at Knowsley Road, a modest affair with a rent of £30 a year, where stewards would take payment at pigeonholes in the fencing. They won the first game to be played at their newfound home by 2 goals and a try to 0 against Manchester Rangers on the 6th of September 1890. Gates were between £10 and £40 a match. The team were transported to and from the ground in a wagonette, a horse-drawn carriage. In 1902, they once again moved headquarters to the Talbot Hotel in Duke Street, which is now known as the Sportsman's. Expenses were paid to players of clubs from northern industrial towns who had to take time off work to play in matches, known as broken time payments. Albeit just a few shillings, this compensation to players was rejected by the Southern Rugby Union establishment, which caused a split, and a Northern Rugby Union was formed in August 1895. Saints were finalists in the first ever Challenge Cup, which was played at Headingley, Leeds, on Saturday the 24th of April 1897. 13,000 fans turned up and paid gate receipts of £624, 17 shillings and 7 pence. Unfortunately, it was Saints who collected the runners-up medals, having lost to Batley by 10 points to 3. Both teams posed with the famous trophy and Saints' dwarf mascot before the game. The Batley team lined up in fives. It was still 15-a-side then. Saints, captained by Tommy Folkes, grandfather of the former Manchester United star Billy, took a somewhat more relaxed outfit in their lucky, faded blue and white hoop jerseys, which they'd worn throughout the Cup run. Unfortunately, Challenge Cup victory would elude Saints for many years to come. St Helens had become a training ground for up-and-coming rugby talent, as well as for the many great players who joined Saints. William Bryers, known as Kitty, made 520 appearances, scoring over 100 tries during his 17-year career. He got his nickname from being left-handed, or kitty-pawed. David Traynor was one of the great centres. The Creevy brothers, Charlie, Jimmy and Matt, who hailed from the Pocket Nook district of the town. Matt was the fastest halfback of his time. Known as the human panther, he could jump over the average man's head and at one stage travelled the music halls performing his tricks. Hubert Sidney Jum Turtill, a former New Zealand Rugby Union All Black, was a reliable last line of defence who had the ability to kick with either foot. One of the finest fullbacks in the north of England, Tommy Folkes, had 15 seasons with the club. The Reverend Christopher Chavas, who was the son of the Bishop of Liverpool, was ordained in 1910 and later appointed to St Helens Parish Church. He played several first-team matches for the Saints, his speed earning him the nickname the Flying Curate. The Great War from 1914 to 1918 saw Britain enter into conflict with Germany in the bloodiest and most devastating battle the world had ever seen. Players and supporters alike gave their services for king and country. 3 of the Saints' great players also gave their lives. Jim Flanagan, Jimmy Greenwood and Captain Jum Turtill would not be coming back home to Knowsley Road. Another casualty whose memorial can be found in one of the stained glass windows at Christchurch, Eccleston, was Lieutenant Robert Douglas Herman, son of the club's founder, William Douglas Herman. William's parents' names are also preserved in memory at the same church. Tom Barton, a devastating winger who'd scored 96 tries in 186 matches, averted a strike on Saturday the 1st of May 1915, the day of the Challenge Cup final against mighty Huddersfield. Chairman Tom Phillips told players the empty money pot meant that win or lose, there would be no bonus. The players refused to turn out until Tommy stepped in telling his mates, "I'm not going to let those supporters down. Win or lose, there's a medal for each of us, and I'm not going home without mine." And he didn't. It was the second time the Saints had reached the final since 1897, and they met with a punishing defeat. Huddersfield 37, St Helens 3. One of the most memorable occasions in the history of the St Helens Club was when over 41,000 spectators crammed into Knowsley Road to witness the Christmastide events of 1920, with local rivals Rex, the Pilkington Works team, and Wigan. Although the Saints couldn't give their supporters a win, the club's coffers were boosted with record receipts of £2,250 from the 2 games. The biggest of the 2 was against Wigan, when 24,000 fans saw Lord Derby declare open the newly added pavilion at the ground, whilst Councillor Evelyn Pilkington unfurled the new flag she presented to the club. After a few years of post-war struggle, St Helens developed their team of all the talents. It started with the signing of Leslie Fairclough for £5 when he was a drummer boy with the Army in 1918. A major coup for the Saints was the signing of soccer croc Alf Ellaby, a former professional footballer with Rotherham who'd given up soccer because of an injury. But this didn't stop him going on to make the supreme grade in rugby league. Around these, Saints built their great team. The Lewis brothers came from Wales in 1922 for a reputed £1,000 fee. Despite the new faces in the Saints team, injuries and poor form caused them to have several poor seasons in the early 1920s. The cost of new signings and the lack of success meant debts of more than £1,400. An attempt to float St Helens Rugby Football Club with a share capital of £5,000 divided into £1 shares on October the 25th, 1923 proved unsuccessful. The Supporters Club was founded in the same year by local laundry owner Jesse Skepper, who, undeterred by the poor response to his advert, got meetings underway at the White Lion Hotel in Church Street, fixing subscriptions at £1 shilling. The first annual meeting of the Supporters Club, held on August the 19th, 1924, revealed a membership of just over 700, who'd raised the handsome sum of £287, 11 shillings and 10 pence. The original object for forming the Supporters Club was to raise funds to build a shelter for Knowsley Road fans on the popular side. After only 2 years and a lot of hard work, Jesse Skepper saw his dream come true with the opening of the 100-feet stand on the 19th of December 1925. More than 12,000 St Heleners left the town for Warrington to watch the game between Saints and local rivals St Helens Rex in the driving rain on Saturday the 20th of November 1926. The Rex had dominated local rugby since the war, but that didn't stop underdog Saints from beating them 10 points to 2, giving them their first major trophy success since joining the Northern Rugby Football League. Joyous scenes were witnessed when the Saints left for Wembley on Thursday, May the 1st, 1930. The players were greeted with ringing cheers on arrival at Shaw Street Station, and as they boarded their saloons on the 9 o'clock train, there were showers of confetti, until the whole station looked like a dozen weddings had taken place. Saints were by now one of the best teams in the league, and about to face underdogs Widnes in the 1930 Challenge Cup final at Wembley. The teams were led onto the pitch by Saints' blue-shirted captain George Lewis and Widnes's Paddy Douglas. The crowd greeted the players with deafening cheers.
St Helens are playing in blue, Widnes in black and white.
Back home at Knowsley Road, fans were treated to a cup final broadcast from the apparatus and loudspeakers attached to the pavilion. The new arrangements would avoid congestion at Victoria Square, where the announcement of scores had previously been given out. It was said that the 36,000-strong crowd had not seen the real Saints, and that their strength had been left on the streets of London, where they'd spent much of their time sightseeing, including a full tour around the Houses of Parliament by St Helens MP, the Right Honourable Mr Tinker. Poorer Gates by September 1933 were now leading the club into financial crisis. Newspaper reports revealed the selling off of virtually all their stars, such as Jack Arkwright to Warrington, and the great Alf Ellaby to deadly rivals Wigan. In fact, Ellaby took a cut in wages to join the Riversiders. Receipts were no longer meeting expenses, and the sale of more players would continue if appeals for support went unanswered. It was announced on May the 4th, 1934, that the club was about to pass out of existence unless immediate support was forthcoming. The crisis is the most pressing of any situation seen in the club's long and checkered history. Prospects were grim. St Helens struggled on without the big names, and by 1936, gates were down to 2,000. It was decided to make a second bid to form a limited company. The new flotation would require a minimum of £4,000 for it to be a success, offering shares at 10 shillings each. Saints Limited played and won their first game as a new company against Widnes 11 points to 7 on the 28th of August 1937. Towards the end of the 30s, however, the enthusiasm for the support of rugby league in St Helens was at an all-time low. The Saints were back in debt, and neighbours Rex were so seriously affected by their deficit, they had to close down. Alf Ellaby, having rejoined the Saints during the late 30s, announced his retirement from rugby due to pressure from his hotel business in Blackpool. By order of Herr Hitler, German forces marched on Poland, bombing the capital Warsaw. An immediate meeting of the British cabinet resulted in the King signing orders for full mobilization of Britain's sea, land and air forces. Local authorities had been instructed to put air raid warning systems into full operation. The sounding of factory hooters and sirens are prohibited, except to give air raid warnings. Since 11 a.m., Sunday the 3rd of September 1939, Great Britain has been at war with Germany. In a message broadcast by the King, he called upon "my people at home and across the seas to stand calm, firm and united." The war would cause a serious effect upon rugby league and sport in general. The visitors to Knowsley Road on Saturday, the day before the war had been declared, were to witness their shortest tour in history. The visiting Kiwis beat Saints 15 points to 7 and returned home after their next match at Dewsbury. Wartime restrictions meant that all competitive football was banned. With the Rex, after 20 years as professionals, now gone, the Saints were at least still alive. During the war years, the Knowsley Road headquarters became a Home Office-approved first aid and air raid warden's post, and to protect the installation, a trench was dug across the club's car park. After the ban on playing rugby was eventually lifted, attempts to restart proved difficult, as many players had joined the services. Signs that the 6-year war was coming to an end were certain when, after 1,843 nights in the dark, blackout restrictions were to be relaxed.
Well, after the war, all the Saints was a few ATC cadets and a few old-timers, old men kind of thing. I was only kid, but it was just like going into an army barracks, a naval barracks, and an RAF camp. There was every uniform you could mention on the Saints pegs. You couldn't get a peg, you couldn't even get your coat on the floor. There was that many uniforms there. And the talk was army, and army got killed, and how was to kill people, you know.
By 1947, the misery of the war years was beginning to fade, and Saints' popularity was booming. Gates were averaging 14,000, and a record 28,000 crowd on Boxing Day against Wigan meant that the additional revenue would help speed up their team building. New names soon featured in the Saints lineup. The board turned their attention to Wales, signing 21-year-old Welsh county winger Steve Llewellyn, quite by accident. They'd actually gone to check out another three-quarter, Terry Cook. Chairman Harry Cook wanted only the best for his Saints team and their loyal supporters. He'd managed to present them with an all-star squad, yet the fans were still kept waiting for success. Mr. Cook wanted a big-name coach. After suggesting to the board the name of the man he wanted, Wigan coach Jim Sullivan, they told him to go and get him. Harry's secret talks paid off.
Had his signature and everything under the bed for a fortnight before I disclosed it. And he was one of the reasons why we did so well. They obeyed his rules and his orders.
After a 31-year relationship with Wigan, Sully became full-time coach to Saints on the 28th of June 1952. The following year, Saints were poised to revisit the scene of their greatest disappointment nearly a quarter of a century ago, Wembley. With the best pack of forwards they've ever had, St Helens are favourites to win the Rugby League Challenge Cup in the second Roses clash with Huddersfield, following 3 bitter disappointments, losing to Batley in 1897, Huddersfield in 1915, and in 1930 to Widnes.
There were about 90,000 at Wembley to watch the Rugby League Cup final. Huddersfield on the right with white rings on their jerseys, St Helens with a dark band. Both teams were introduced to the Earl Marshal, the Duke of Norfolk. Then the toss-up, Greenall winning from Pepperell, the Huddersfield skipper. Huddersfield kicked off and the match got going at a cracking pace with no quarter asked or given. Huddersfield were the first to score after half an hour's play when Ramsden, their young standoff half, got a try. It was converted by Devery to give Huddersfield a 5-point lead. St Helens, playing a very stout game, were of course all out to level the score. Presently Langfield took a penalty kick and gained 2 of the points. So far so good for St Helens, but they were still 3 points in arrears. Eventually they drew level when Llewellyn went over for a try which was not converted. St Helens kicked off in the second half. After about 20 minutes of give and take, a movement started by Greenall resulted in a St Helens try by Langfield. The kick having failed, St Helens led by 3 points, and then Hunter, the Huddersfield fullback, was injured, though he was only out of the game for about 10 minutes. In spite of these reverses, Huddersfield now had a brilliant spell, leading to a nice try by scrum half Banks. Cooper converted to put them in front again. It certainly was a match full of thrills. St Helens, pressing hard, looked very dangerous, and Langfield seized a chance to drop a goal and equalise once more. From now until near the end, it looked as if the result would be a draw. But there was one final thrill in store, another try for Huddersfield and Ramsden's second. Cooper converted, giving Huddersfield a 5-point victory. The Duke of Norfolk presented the trophy to Pepperell. For him, this must have been a moment of great triumph. So it was for Peter Ramsden, and incidentally on his 19th birthday. He was awarded the Lance Todd Trophy for the best display of the game.
Despite the elaborate 15-mile tour of the borough being cancelled, 10,000 blocked Victoria Square to welcome home the vanquished Saints. Chairman Harry Cook wept unashamedly as the party walked onto the town hall steps. He thanked the crowd who'd given his team such a wonderful reception, saying, "It's very easy to cheer a winning side, but you're cheering the losers. This is the finest gesture of sportsmanship I've ever seen in my life." Within a couple of weeks, the lads were back at the town hall, this time as victors, having beaten Halifax 24 points to 14 in the championship final at Main Road, Manchester. Harry Cook reminded the fans that winning this one takes a lot more than the Wembley Cup. It's the reward that shows a side's consistency. Saints were also winners of the Lancashire Cup on Saturday, October the 24th, 1953, beating Wigan at Station Road, Swinton, 16 points to 8, in front of over 42,000 spectators. Saints followers were gratified to read in the St Helens newspaper on the 28th of April 1955 of the signing on his 16th birthday of Alex Murphy. Pupil of St Austin's, that O'Heath, his development had been watched for some time, and it was thought he could become one of the game's greatest halfbacks. The lad from Donkey Common had captained St Helens boys, who won the Lancashire Cup in 53-54. Iris Hunter, whose husband Harold was a prominent member of the board, remembers Alex well.
We followed Alex Murphy from 7 years of age when he was playing for St Austin's. And then Alex, when he got to 15, we took him to Joe Harrison's house in Millbrook Lane, Town Villa, and we kept him there over till he's 12 o'clock, and he was 16, and then they signed him on.
He was anxious to join Saints. Austin Rhodes was at the Saints then, and of course everything pointed to them being an exceptional couple, because Austin played standoff and he was the finest scrum half in the world. It turned out to be the youngest ever to go to Australia and to come back with the Ashes. And
for the princely sum of £80, Alex Murphy became a Saint and would go on to become the greatest all-round scrum half ever to play rugby league. Saints had entered into a period of change by the 55-56 season, and coach Jim Sullivan made no secret of his desire to bring back the Challenge Cup to St Helens.
And they signed Sullivan from, was it Wigan they signed him from? Some people would probably say, well, he was a bit lucky because he just came at the right time, you know, but I honestly don't think that was the case. I think Sullivan was just magic. He had a way with him to see good players play and get the best out of decent players. And he certainly did the job for us.
Sullivan's remodelled team reached Wembley for another Roses battle, this time against Halifax on Saturday, April the 28th, 1956.
Wembley Stadium, the final tie of the Rugby League Challenge Cup competition, and 80,000 spectators, mostly from Lancashire and Yorkshire, of course. Before the kick-off, Field Marshal Earl Alexander of Tunis, the chief guest, met the teams. Then the War of the Roses got going, with Halifax in ring jerseys undoubtedly favourites. It certainly was a real battle, as only the Rugby League game can be, with no quarter asked or given. It was tough going all the time, with no scoring in the first half. The second half opened with a furious St Helens attack. It was completed with a great run by 19-year-old left wing Carlton. Rhodes, the 18-year-old scrum half, converted. St Helens were now playing the sort of football that makes this 13-a-side game such a thrill. Within minutes, Llewellyn went away on the other wing to score another try for Lancashire. Again, Rhodes did the trick, this time from a difficult angle. The Yorkshiremen, 10 points down, fought stubbornly to reduce the arrears, but they had to be content with the penalty. Then St Helens returned to the attack, intent on making victory certain. They did so when Prescott went over for their third try. Rhodes was within inches of doing the hat-trick. When Prescott went up to receive the cup, what a great moment for St Helens, for this was the first time they'd won it.
All police leave cancelled in St Helens, it's estimated that 100,000 people turned out to adorn the route from Liverpool Lime Street as Saints, after 59 years of striving, brought home the coveted Challenge Cup for the first time. Amid rumours and speculation, the secret that Saints officials did not want disclosing until the formalities had been completed has leaked out. South African rugby union winger Tom van Vollenhoven is to sign for Saints. Tom and his wife Leonie arrived at London Airport on Saturday, October the 19th, 1957. And a week later, he was shaking hands with Leeds centre Pat Quinn in front of a crowd of 23,000 speckies at Knowsley Road. Vollenhoven, ex-policeman and former worker in the Rhodesian copper industry, wasn't the first South African to play in St Helens. In 1934, in the closing days of his career, former Wigan great A.J. Van Heerden played a game or two for Saints 18. In the dying minutes of the game, Tom Vollenhoven gave the fans what they'd come to see. He took a pass from Welsh centre Ray Price and made a sensational 40-yard dash to the line, touching down under the sticks at the pavilion end. The fans took the flying policeman, who put the club out of pocket to the tune of £7,230, to their hearts.
Yeah, I arrived here on the 19th of October, and I played my first game on the 26th, so I didn't have a lot of time to adjust and to get used to the game. But fortunately, I had Jim Sullivan, who helped me, and Dougie Ginnell as my centre partner. But the players were very nice and they all helped me. So I can't complain about any of my players in those days.
The Knowsley Road stand, with its view-obscuring 29 uprights, is to be taken down to make way for the brand-new £32,000 grandstand. The Saints' new showpiece will comfortably cater for 2,400 on its tip-up seats. The project has been financed through the generosity of local firms and the hard work of the prosperous Saints Supporters Club, who've raised thousands of pounds selling lottery tickets. Sir Harry Pilkington announced the opening of the new stand on Saturday, the 23rd of August, 1958, prior to the start of the first game of the season against Featherstone Rovers. Saints blessed their new showpiece with a 32-9 victory. Knowsley Road bosses were said to continue spending. looking again to South Africa. They bought Vollenhoven's successor in the Springbok team, Jan Prinsloo. And just like Van, Prinsloo was a winger with terrifying speed. He took over the left wing from Frank Carlton. Whitehaven's Dick Huddart, sought after by all the top clubs, made no secret of his desire to join St Helens. Dick had recently returned from the successful British tour of Australia and New Zealand, where he'd become great friends with Saints superstar loose forward Vince Corelius.
Dick Huddart, to my mind, was the best second-row forward I'd ever seen. He was terrific on the ball, you know, he was absolutely magic. He could push people off, you know, and that's an ability that would shine in any era, the same as Murphy's ability, the same as Greenall's ability.
Tom van Vollenhoven.
Oh, absolutely magic, Thomas, wasn't he? I mean, he was another dimension, wasn't he? He was something special. Yeah, super try. But I think it was a great team performance and all that day.
And it's St Helens to kick off, and the match is being played in this colossal Odsal Stadium with a crowd of, I should imagine, well, it looks like 70,000 spectators, and off we go. Walker loses the ball. Terry, Corelius, Murphy making a brilliant run through, and it looks like a try. It's no try. He's not grounded properly in the corner. It looked like a try to McGinn, but I could see the referee having some doubt about the correctness of grounding. He has to put the ball on the ground, and he couldn't get it clearly, so it's St Helens in an attacking position. Corelius, a strong runner. Play the ball back. It's anybody's ball. It's come to Hunslet. That's most unusual. Gavitas beats one. Gavitas beats two. He goes near. Gavitas 2 yards short. Murphy again to Prinsloo. Prinsloo beating 1-2, beating 3, beating the well-tackled Langton and put him into touch in the corner. Great run by Prinsloo and a great tackle by Langton, the Hunslet full-back. Ball possession now so vital for both teams. St Helens for the attack and Hunslet for the defence. It's another penalty for feet up. And Austin Rhodes will take the kick for 2 points. And it's in. After 13 minutes of the first half, Hunslet lead by 5 points to St Helens 4 points.
Probably the most unforgettable try of all time was during the championship final at Odsal Stadium, when Tom van Vollenhoven beat several opponents in a 75-yard dash for the line. Unfortunately, the cameraman didn't capture the moment.
And it does. St Helens lead by 16 points to Hunslet 12 points. Murphy again to Prinsloo. Prinsloo chasing away on the far wing. Is one man to beat, is 2 men to beat, and they scored! They scored! A great try! Great try by South African winger Prinsloo. But it doesn't carry the game. About 37 to 38 minutes gone. St Helens lead 19 points to Hunslet 12 in this first half of a very thrilling and a very entertaining rugby league match indeed. Prescott, St Helens attacking. Corelius, McKinney, Greenall, Vollenhoven, and Vollenhoven's going to score. And Vollenhoven scored another great try. It will be Rhodes' 6th goal if he kicks it. And he does. A very, very good conversion indeed. And with the start of the second half, with St Helens leading 24 points to Hunslet's 12, Hunslet to kick off on our left and St Helens in the light shirts on our right. Had it to Murphy. This is a brilliant little footballer. This is the sort of thing Murphy revels in. Brilliant long run into Prescott. To Prescott out to A long pass to Volanov, and Volanov will score. He'll score in the corner. Rhodes to kick, but he doesn't go. So after 3 minutes of the second half, St. Helens 27 points, Hunslet 12 points. And it's St. Helens attacking again with a feast of good football. Prescott, Cornelius, strong runner. Oh, and it's Smith to take the ball, and it's Smith to score. Smith, the young stand-off, to score behind the post. Rhodes, who has already kicked 6 goals in the first half. This is his first success. If he kicks it in the second half, he should do. It's easy, and he does. McKinney, the Irishman, comes Scotsman, ball in Ireland, played in Scottish Rugby Union football, gets it to Briggs. Briggs, a long pass to Prinsloo. Prinsloo, the South African, beats 1, beats 2. Can he beat Langton? Well tackled Langton. Well run Prinsloo. Murphy, this great scrum half to... Oh, possession. Oh, this Murphy who's got it. And Murphy's running almost the length of the field. Collin is chasing him, but he's sure to score. He'll score in the corner. Murphy who's got it. Ubiquitous little scrum half, Murphy to Huddart. Huddart, a short pass to Cornelius. Cornelius, a short pass to Smith. Dougie Greenall, long pass to Murphy, to Prinsloo. Prinsloo can't get past Stockdale, the right, Hunslet right centre. Hunslet is still tackling well, despite their 17 points behind. Prescott to Huddart, and Huddart racing for the line. Huddart's going to score, I think, and I'm sure he does. And a wonderful try by Dick Huddart, which may possibly be the last try of the match. It's the 8th try. Rhodes taking the conversion, and he kicks it, and it's time as St. Helens become the Rugby League champions for this season, winning this championship final. St. Helens 44 points, Hunslet 22
Alan
points.
Prescott's excellent track record of 10 years playing for St. Helens in the front row made him an obvious choice for promotion to player coach, with the departure of Jim Sullivan after his 7-year contract had come to an end. Prescott, however, didn't play in this 1959 match against Australia, his number 8 jersey worn instead by teammate Ab Terry. Saints were beaten by the Aussies, who were largely an inexperienced side, 15 points to 2. 12 months later, however, the Saints redressed the balance. The crowd, half the previous year's total of 29,000, witnessed a memorable victory. Tries were scored by Vollenhoven, Ryers and Smith, with emergency kicker Brian McGinn notching 3 goals. The full Saints team was as follows: Landsberg, Tommy Voll, Briers, McGinn, Prinsloo, Donovan, Smith, Ab Terry, Harrison, Knowles, Don Vines, Dick Huddart and Jim Measures. By 1961, Saints had built a team to be reckoned with. Rugby supporters couldn't be better pleased with the 2 teams that would take centre stage at Wembley on May the 13th to compete for the Challenge Cup.
95,000 at Wembley, yelling for the Saints, that's St. Helens, or Wigan in the Rugby League Cup final. First, the Gladiators were presented to Lord Derby, President of the League. Wigan in dark jerseys kicked off, and battle commenced. After 4 minutes, St. Helens were penalised, and Griffiths kicked straight and true. St. Helens were obviously not going to stand for that. Their immediate onslaught led to a try by Murphy. Even without conversion, St. Helens were in front. Before half-time, they made it 5-2 when Rhodes kicked a penalty. In the second half, the Saints found themselves hard-pressed, and Wigan almost levelled the score when Griffiths kicked another penalty. prominent for St Helens was that great South African Van Vollenhoven on the right wing. After 20 minutes, he and Large broke away in a magnificent run. No one could stop them, and it ended with Vollenhoven scoring one of the greatest tries ever seen in such a final. Conversion was a simple matter for Rhodes, 10-4. St Helens were in command now, and they made it 12-4 when Rhodes kicked yet another penalty. Wigan, true to their great record, fought right to the end. A final penalty by Griffiths made it 6-12, but the cup was St Helens. Lord Derby presented it to Corellius, the skipper. He and his men had won a famous victory in a rugged battle, and they well deserved their triumph.
Dick Huddett's display of rugby football at its best won him the Lance Todd Trophy, and the team £75 each winner's pay. The Wembley attendance was 94,672, which raised receipts of £38,479. The team arrived at Liverpool Lime Street Station with the Challenge Cup. Fans adorned the route at St Helens, and some did their best to keep up with the coach carrying their heroes. 20,000 people packed Victoria Square. The team emerged through the wooden doors of the town hall, and after the thunderous applause had died down, Vince Corellius thanked the crowd for the wonderful reception. Alan Prescott told them that Vollenhoven was leaving for South Africa on Thursday. But, interrupted Harry Cook, he will be coming back. Tom took advantage of the mass poliomyelitis vaccination program by having his jab before he went. The thrilling 25-10 victory over the visiting New Zealanders on October the 14th, 1961 wasn't enough to save Alan Prescott's coaching contract from being terminated as the side slid down the table. Stan McCormick was temporarily put in his place. Vinty Corellius, due to pressure from his welding business, announced that he was considering quitting, and second rower Ray French joined Saints.
I always wanted to turn professional, having been born and bred in St Helens. When I first signed, it was that sort of great era which had Dick Huddett there and Vince Corellius and Ab Terry, Murph, Mick Sullivan, etc. Then that side began to break up when Alan Prescott went and Stan McCormick came. And it took 18 months for a new side to emerge.
St Helens players were in demand for international rugby. Dick Huddett, Bob Dagnall, Ab Terry, Mick Sullivan and Alex Murphy were all part of the Great Britain team which defeated the Kiwis 23-10 in the second test at Bradford. The visiting New Zealanders had first come to Britain in 1907. The one-penny programme card for the first game against Saints on Wednesday, October the 30th, contained the words of the famous Maori war cry. The 8,000 crowd saw Saints defeated 24-5. The crowd seen here to witness the game Saints v Australia in 1963 presents a different picture to the Aussies' first visit on February the 10th, 1909, when despite the attraction of a live kangaroo mascot, the event only managed to draw a crowd of less than 2,000. The poor attendance meant that Saints officials, who'd promised the Australians a sum of £50, had put the club out of pocket to the sum of almost £40. To the delight of the fans, however, Saints won by 9-0. The Australians left for home a month later, minus 4 players who'd signed for English clubs, and the Kangaroo, which had died due to the cold weather. New faces in the Saints lineup against the Aussies included South African three-quarter Len Killeen and 20-year-old Welsh rugby international fullback Kel Coslett, who was set to replace Austin Rhodes.
Well, the club and the people were absolutely brilliant. There was a mixture of people here, the likes of Dick Uddert from Cymru, John Tenby from Cymru, he had Vollenhoven and Killeen from South Africa. Cliff Watson, who's just over now, he was from the sort of Birmingham Midlands area. So there was quite a mixture, plus the local fellas like Austin Rhodes and Bobby Dagnall, Murphy of course. So, you know, there's quite a mixture, and they accepted me pretty well.
Well, Kel Coslett came into the forwards from the full-back position, Cliff Watson of course, Bill Sayer came along and Bob Dagnall, the two vying for the hooking role. We had Mervyn Hicks, we had a young Doug Lawton. We had 9 or 10 really top class forwards. And of course in the backs we had Killeen, Vollenhoven, Murphy, Bishop, Benyon, Barrows, you name them, Peter Harvey. We had them. And it was a great era. I do think the side was ahead of its time. I think that side would really have relished playing today in Super League. They were as fit as it was possible to be between 1964 and 1967-8. They were as fit as it was possible to be at that time. You know, remembering that, you know, we were wearing boots which weighed 4 to 5 pounds heavier than the boots that they do today. You were wearing jerseys which weighed absolute hundredweight when they were covered in mud and muck and rain, Alan, and bearing in mind the conditions and the diet. I mean, we were on steak pies, they're on pasta today, although I must confess I prefer the steak pies to the pasta. But they were superbly trained. Joe Corn was an excellent coach, a disciplinarian, a man who brought some authority to St Helens.
Joe Cohen, a man unknown to Saints fans, was the newly appointed coach who would take super-fit Saints forward with their captain Alex Murphy. With the disappointment of losing the 1965 championship final by 15 points to 7 against Halifax behind them, Joe had his eyes on the Challenge Cup as Saints faced an ageing Wigan side in the 1966 Wembley final.
Helens in white kicked off before a record Wembley crowd in the Rugby League Cup final against Wigan. But what a different Wigan from the famous Cup contenders who won 6 of their 10 finals. St Helens started the punishment with a penalty goal after 5 minutes. Scorer, South Africa's Len Killeen. Hard to believe that 10 men on the Wigan side played in last year's Cup-winning team. St Helens were 4 points up after 5 more minutes with another Killeen penalty goal. A fantastic kick. In fact, Wigan were no match for the fast, constructive teamwork of St Helens. Every potential Wigan attack was overwhelmed before it got off the ground. St Helens soon put on another pile of points when loose forward John Mantle, a former Newport Rugby Union player, scored a try. Killeen made it a goal. Now Wigan's David Stevens makes a vain attempt to take the play in the other direction. Nine points down, Wigan had a small consolation before half-time with a penalty kick. But Laurie Gilfetta's goal was to give them their only points in the game. So to the second half, with St Helens fresh as daisies, fierce as lions. Len Killeen was to receive the Lance Todd Trophy as man of the match. This was his 3rd penalty goal. Compared with the Wigan side, St Helens are younger, but still an experienced a machine that really works. Wonderman Killeen gains another 3 points with a try. Already 12 points ahead, the Saints then got 3 more from scrum half Bishop. And Killeen completes his 13 points towards the total of 21. The final nail in Wigan's coffin was hammered home by the Saints' captain, a drop goal from Alex Murphy. The Prime Minister presented the trophy.
A record crowd of 98,536 spectators paid £50,409 in gate money. "30,000 cup-happy fans have descended on the town to give Saints a hero's welcome. Corporation Street, along which the coach carrying the Saints will travel, and Victoria Square have been jammed solid. All police leave has been cancelled and every available man is on crowd control duty. Mounted police from Liverpool have also been drafted in to help. Crash barriers have been put in place to keep crowds in check. The police car arrives slightly ahead to clear the way. Next, the coach arrives, passing the Theatre Royal and then the Congregationalist Church as it crawls through the sea of red and white. The players on view through the sunroof of the coach, holding the trophy high for all to see. Each player was greeted by their own personal roar as they stepped off the coach to be welcomed by the Mayor, Councillor Luther. The team had arrived at Lime Street at 5:45 p.m, where they were joined by school teachers John Mantle, Peter Harvey and Ray French. They'd been back in their classrooms that Monday morning, cup or no cup, but naturally they took part in the victory cavalcade. The banners were as varied as the songs. Killeen the Great and Lord Alex were the most original. The team also chipped in with a song for the fans, led by Bob Dagnall and Saints chairman Mr. Harry Cook. They sang 21 Today to signify their 21 points scored on the 21st. The week following their Wembley success, Saints met Halifax at Station Road, Swinton in the top 16 championship final. The Yorkshire side's 7-3 lead in the first quarter proved temporary as the Saints fought back. Killeen converted Albert Housel's try, then Murphy's drop goal put his team in the lead 8-7. By the second half, Halifax was so overplayed that they gave vent to bad feeling, and an ugly situation blew up right in front of the TV cameras involving 16 players. A few restraining, and the rest freely exchanging blows and kicks. Minnie Cotton, seen entering the picture from the left, clambered over the wall and, wielding her handbag, ran into the centre of the melee before being escorted off by officials. Referee Joe Manley restored order, and the Saints' 35-12 victory brought their season's trophy haul to 4. By the start of the 66-67 campaign, Alex Murphy, at his own request, was put on the transfer list. Despite being the most successful captain in Saints history, Murphy was unhappy at playing out of position and told the club he'd no intention of playing in the 3 quarters. Murphy almost accepted an offer from Australian club North Sydney. He'd put his house up for sale, gave up his business interests, and his wife Alice gave up her teaching job in readiness for the move. At the 11th hour, he accepted a £30 a week job at Leigh, becoming the highest paid coach in rugby league. In the absence of Murphy, Ray French took on the captaincy, and about the same time the new 4-tackle rule was introduced by the league to try and open out the game. The scrum, which followed a penalty kick to touch, was abolished and replaced by a play the ball at entry. Following trials in the BBC Floodlit Trophy games, A scrum was to be formed after 4 consecutive tackles, unless the attacking side had kicked or otherwise given away possession. Other changes were afoot as the powerful Wembley machine of '66 continued its break-up.
I was captaining that awkward season after Wembley, that 66-67 season, when again the side was breaking up, and it was to produce the side for the early 70s then with George Nichols, Jeff Pimlett and company. And I'll never forget at the end of the season, beginning of the 67-8 season I think it was, I was actually painting the front of the house on a ladder, and my wife Helen came round to the front door and said, "Mr. Cook's on the phone, he wants you to go to Widnes." So I said, "Well, I can't go to Widnes now." I said, I'm painting the front, you know, the house. I was covered in paint. I thought he wanted me to deliver a message or just to take a packet or take some programmes or something. So I said, "Look," and I said, "Ask him, can somebody else go? Just ask him, can somebody else go?" So she did, and he came back and said, no, it's got to be you." So I was moaning like hell, and I came down. I said, "Tell him I'll be up at Nosey Road in 10 minutes. I got washed and changed. When I got there, Frank Milo was there. I said, "Hello, Frank, what are you doing?" "Oh," he said, "I'm coming to St Helens. You're going to Widnes." I said, "You are?" Yes, she said, "It's a part exchange deal." And then, only then did I realise that I was being transferred. So within 20 minutes of the ladder, I was actually signing for Widnes. You know, I didn't want to go. There's no question about that. I definitely didn't want to go. And I was very upset at the time. But as it turned out, I had 4 tremendous years with Widnes that I really did enjoy, and of course I played for Great Britain. I went on tour, and the deal both ways worked out well.
By 1968, the flying Springbok Vol, the player who fans adored, was set to retire. So great was his popularity that a testimonial record was produced, tribute to Vollenhoven Calypso.
10 years ago, a stranger came,
Joe Cohen had resigned in January and was replaced by former Swinton coach Cliff Evans. This film shows Saints against Huddersfield 2 months prior to one of the most emotional occasions ever witnessed at Knowsley Road, when Tom Vollenhoven bade farewell to his fans and the scene of his many triumphs.
the greatest player in the rugby league. No other fans can ever say the same. The idol of them all. Here, here. And I hear, I'm telling you. The crowd rolled out their great delight when he turned out in red and white. It soon was known to one and all, but still he had been a rugby ball. This man then went from strength to strength, running for tries at any length. He shared with his great skill and speed. The St Helens team kept in the lead. Tom Vollenhoven is his name, the greatest player in the rugby league. No other fans can ever say the same. The idol of them all. Here, yes. Ah, ha, ha, ha. What a man in 61, the great king. Vollenhoven was to make his name. Down the wing he began to fly, scoring Wembley's greatest try. And then what grief and misery, as he had his share of injury.
After the final whistle, Vol was carried shoulder high from the field by his teammates as he turned to give a final salute to the 16,000 spectators who'd so often cheered him home. Tom received a testimonial cheque for £2,800 at the end of June, which was a rugby league record.
Tom Vollenhoven, he loved playing for St Helens and he was brilliant.
Oh, absolutely magic, Thomas.
Love Tom Van Vollenhoven. I think Tom Van Vollenhoven had everything. He was a great, great player. And I think that I played inside him once or twice. I played centre to him a couple of times. And when he was injured, I actually had his shirt on. And it was nice to play in the number 2 when Tommy wasn't there. But he was a smashing character. He was so good, was Tom Van Vollenhoven, that you found yourself when you were playing actually stopping watching him. wondering how he did it, because even though you're all professionals and you're all playing in the same game, he was a class above the rest of us, I thought.
Saints were invited to take part in what was billed as the Championship of Europe. The supporters club organised a trip to Toulouse, which meant an early morning trip from Speke Airport, sightseeing, lunch at the Hotel Concorde, and of course a trip to the match. The 120 supporters who made the journey had first been taken to the wrong ground. However, they arrived in time at the right place to see Saints thrash the French side, Saint-Gaudens, 30 points to 11. During the 71-72 campaign, Saints played a club record total of 57 competitive matches, with marathon men Eric Chisnall, Coslet, Eaton, Tony Corralius, Kelly and Jeff Pimblett notching up 50 or more appearances.
Wembley Stadium, venue once again for another cup final, this time for rugby league between Leeds and St Helens, who have the honour of kicking off. Immediately the pressure's on. They try to find each other's weaknesses, anything that'll get that ball over the line. The fans don't have to wait long. Graham Rees for St Helens starts the scoring. Ex-rugby union man Kelvin Coslet adds to the score. St Helens lead 5-0, but Leeds, who were defeated in last year's final, look for every opportunity to level up. The Yorkshire team now as they push back into Leeds ground, but there's a bit of hard tackling, a penalty to Leeds. Terry Clausen kicks for Leeds, but it goes wide. St Helens 5, Leeds 2. St Helens, the Saints come marching back in again. Les Jones, number 2, receives and goes over the line. Leeds swing the action back into the St Helens camp, but they give away a penalty, and the St Helens captain takes the kick. The score, St Helens 10, Leeds 2. Clausen for Leeds puts the boot in, making it 4 points to Leeds. A move from the St Helens team. Again, the services of Welshman Kelvin Coslet is called upon. St Helens are now 12 and Leeds still with 4 points. An infringement by St Helens gives Leeds the chance to halve the score, which now reads St Helens 12, Leeds 6. The second half, with Leeds attacking. Phil Cookson for Leeds grabs the ball and crashes over the line, making Leeds 9 only 3 points behind. Spurred on by many supporters, skipper Coslet for St Helens takes everyone by surprise with a dropped goal. 16 to them, with Leeds still at 9. This is Terry Clausen kicking Leeds' score further up to 13 points, but it's all over. St Helens are the winners of the Rugby League Cup final. Kelvin Coslet, captain of the Lancashire team. For him and his team, a day they won't ever forget. A day that the Saints came marching in.
A victory welcome greets the Saints as the townsfolk lined the route in what seems to have become a habit. A crowded Victoria Square met the players' open-top bus with a roaring cheer as Saints captain, Kel Coslet, who'd been awarded the Lance Todd Trophy, waved the cup for all to see. Saints' new £100,000 Knowsley Bar and Restaurant was opened on Saturday the 31st of March 1973 by club president Lord Pilkington. Work had started on the project in June 1972 and took just 10 months to complete. The restaurant will seat 150, whilst the cabaret room with its 2 lounges will hold 500 pleasure seekers. The 2-tier building with its armour-plated restaurant windows looking over the pitch has become the most dominant feature at the ground. Saturday, May the 18th, 1974, saw Saints narrowly defeated 13 points to 12 by Alex Murphy's Warrington. A disappointing last match result for retiring coach Jim Challoner, who'd been Cliff Evans' replacement in 1970. Eric Ashton, after an 18-year relationship with Wigan as player, coach and manager, was Jim's successor.
I was born just outside the ground at Mulberry Avenue. I'd watched them all my life, all my schoolboy life. Dad used to take us to matches with my brother, and yeah, you always want to think. I think it's. I can't understand anybody who said they didn't want to play for their own town. I mean, I did, but I never got the chance. I left Wigan in 1973. In actual fact, I did 20 years at Wigan, and I've done about 23 years at St Helens now, in coaching capacity and as a director. So I joined a club that hadn't won anything for nearly 3 seasons. The last success was 72 at Wembley. But there's some good players. I mean, I knew that. I mean, you don't always get success because you've got good players. Times the draw and the cup and different things can always change how successful you are. But, you know, they got some good players. Coslett, Mantle, Warlow, Cornelius, Pimlet, Benyon. Good players. You know, you couldn't not fail to do something. And it can happen, a change of face as a player, as a coach, and you get a little bit extra out of them. And I think I got that. It was an oldish side, yes, but I think me taking over from Jim Challoner, who'd had him for 4 years, and it was a change of face, nothing against Jim, it was a change of face, and it lifted him a little bit. And we went on to win in my first season the championship, yeah.
And then, of course, the Challenge Cup followed.
The following year we won the Challenge Cup and the Premiership, yeah. It was quite successful the first 4 years I was there, yeah.
Eric Ashton and his ageing Saints team were going to meet Challenge Cup holders Widnes on Saturday the 8th of May 1976 at Wembley.
We were the, you know, Dad's Army, the pack was all over 30 and all this. But they forgot to realise that every one of them was a damn good player. You know, Chisnall, Mantle, Cornelius, Coslett.
Prior to Wembley that year, in the now well-documented Dad's Army final of 76, I received many a phone call from the press, and obviously the topic of conversation was, do you think you can match these young Lions of Widnes? And sort of, obviously they mentioned the fitness aspect.
In temperatures that reached 100 degrees, Dad's Army marched into battle with the young Lions of Widnes.
Widnes kick off in the Rugby League Cup final against St Helens. Widnes wear black shorts. They're the cup holders. It's St Helens' formidable job to come and get it. Right from the start, they look like doing exactly that. It's only a week after those soccer saints, Southampton, carried off the FA Cup in the upset of the year. History might repeat itself as St Helens go for the big prize. Eddie Cunningham gets the ball. That's the opener. 3 points. And Jeff Pimblett makes it 5-0. But it's early days. A lot can happen. Widnes kick off again. Shaken but undismayed. Penalty to Widnes. 2 points. St Helens 5, Widnes 2. Scrum down. Widnes scrum half Reg Bowden back heels. Then Pimblett takes a snap kick at goal. Almost at once, a penalty for Widnes. The kick's taken by Ray Dutton. At half-time, the massed bands come on, and other things come off. But it doesn't alter the score. At the change round, St Helens is 6, Widnes 4. Still anybody's game as the action continues. St Helens stop a Widner's drive, but suddenly another drop goal. St Helens 6, Widner's 5. A blow for Widner's when Alan Prescott is helped off the field. But by then, St Helens are in command. There's Jones, St Helens. Jeff Heaton takes possession. Another try for St Helens. And that sainted hero of the day, Jeff Pimblett, takes the conversion. It's a good one. St Helens forge ahead. They scent victory. Saints in complete command now, and they know it. Then from a flurry of passes, substitute Glynn goes over for a lovely try. St Helens are jubilant. Saints again, and Glynn makes it a double. The final whistle comes with St Helens on 20 and Paul Widner's back on 5 points. Saints skipper Kel Coslett receives the cup from Mrs. Margaret Thatcher, sporting a new hairdo. What a victory. And once again at Wembley, it's the Saints who go marching in.
What a night it was when Saints came driving into St Helens to a hero's welcome. Hundreds festooned the streets to cheer their champions home. 10,000 fans packed Victoria Square, hoping to get a glimpse of their favourite player. Saints went on to pick up another trophy, beating Salford 15-2 on the 22nd of May in the Premiership final, before leaving for Australia in June to play for the Grace Brothers Cup in the unofficial World Club Championship. Saints were the first club visitors to go to Australia. Unfortunately, they didn't win a game. According to a report in the Australian press, over 26,000 packed into the Sydney Cricket Ground for the match against top dogs Eastern Suburbs, who won by 25 points to 2, running rings around the slow-witted and sluggish Dad's Army from Lancashire.
The Battle of the Roses comes to Wembley Stadium for the final of the Rugby League Challenge Cup. St Helens in white kick off against Leeds. It's a clash between two beefy, rugged teams from the north. Leeds, 4-time Wembley winners and holders of the trophy. St Helens battling for their 6th Challenge Cup victory here. In this game, tackling's hard, and there are no beg pardons. Saints' Derek Noon floors Les Dial of Leeds. Rugby league has been described as a battle between 26 two-legged tanks, but there's a muscled grace about it too. The popular money is on St Helens, but Saints forward Eddie Cunningham's move is stopped. Danger from the favourites again when St Helens hooker Graham Liptrot passes to Harry Pinner. Pinner kicks ahead. Oulton and Atkinson fail to take the ball. Liptrot only has to fall on it to score. So it looks as though St Helens are worthy favourites. 3-0. Jeff Pimblett's kick adds another 2 points. St Helens charge again. Winger Roy Mathias almost makes it. From down, says the ref. William to Francis, and St Helens standoff beats two defenders as he goes for the line. It's beginning to look too easy. St Helens are on top of the world. The conversion makes the score 10-0. But Leeds aren't knocked out yet. Burley Steve Pitchford has the ball. Leeds are holders of the cup and they don't want to let go. Leeds attacking is good, but Saints' defence is better. Then Les Dial passes to John Atkinson on the wing. Atkinson's over. Willie Olton converts. Things are looking up for Leeds. Only inches in it, but Saints are stopped. In graceful slow motion, Harry Pitter is flattened by Steve Pitchford. Heel back and out along the line. Rugby league at its best. A dummy pass starts St Helens on the attack. Valuable points to St Helens after a penalty. Pimblett's kick is a good one. Leeds 5, St Helens 12. Leeds kick off in the second half, furious at the deficit, determined to win. Then, to the fans' delight, David Ward drops a goal. Now it's Leeds 6, St Helens 12. What might have been a dull game, a walkover, is turning into a classic. Can Leeds shake off St Helens' stranglehold? Mick Harrison bites the dust. The crowd's on its toes as Leeds come charging back. Leeds almost make it again. 6 points down, but that's not much in a league game. Suddenly, a passing rush brings danger to St Helens. Smith has the ball, and he's over for a try. But it's not converted. Now only 3 points divide them. Leeds have the ball. The game's ebbing fast, and Leeds know it. The ball goes out to John Holmes. Holmes kicks ahead. Panic among St Helens defenders, but the ball's cleared. Only minutes to go. Leeds are still 3 points down. Leeds ball. Crookson's in possession, and he's over the line for the equaliser. Leeds 12, St Helens 12. The chance for Leeds to go ahead with a conversion is lost. With just a few minutes left, the game has become a cliffhanger. Both sides evenly matched, but tiring. Holmes of Leeds sees his chance for a drop goal. For the first time in the match, Leeds are in the lead, 13-12. But the margin is too narrow for Leeds. Just to make certain, David Ward takes a final drop at goal. Leeds lead by 2 points, and that's the way the game ends. Victory for the underdogs in a match that nobody will ever forget. David Ward, the Leeds captain, receives the trophy from Rugby League president, the Earl of Derby. And he proudly displays the trophy he and his team have succeeded so dramatically in keeping.
We did have a good side, and we had a side good enough to beat Leeds on the day. And obviously spectators thought we was going to win. I think it was 12-0 up or 12-2 up. And we let it go in the last quarter of an hour, didn't we? They made us do a lap of honour even though we'd lost. And my legs just about got me round there. And then when I seen these kids crying, it wrecked me, to be honest with you.
I couldn't believe that we actually lost that game, even though we was 12. I actually scored the first try, which was probably the flukiest one I've ever scored. But the pressure of getting the ball then was awesome, you know. But I think the scrums were pretty level on the day, and you know, we could have won the game in the last minute when, you know, I'll not mention the player's name, you know, but he lost the ball in the last few minutes, and he had a great game, the same lads.
Well, I thought I was going to score.
Did you think the pass was meant for you?
At the time I did, yeah. But after all this time, I'm not so sure now.
Well, I think I'd have dropped it as well. If it had got to me, I may have dropped it. No, it was just, I think there's no way was Derek to blame for anything for that, because I think we'd lost the game just after half-time with weak tackling and a loose defence under our own sticks. Derek had the chance for a bit of glory.
Could have won it, but didn't lose it.
Yeah.
By the early 80s, the Wembley side of '78 had broken up, and fans who'd grown accustomed to supporting the winning Saints of the 60s and 70s saw the decline of their club. Eric Ashton had stood down from his coaching job and was replaced by Kel Coslett in what was a difficult period of change.
I think the Saints has been a family type of atmosphere as well. All I can say is that the sides that they had in the 70s were highly successful. The sides that they had in the 60s were highly successful.
Lack of success meant reduced gate receipts, and the board's announcement of record losses of £126,000 put restrictions on Coslett's team building. Although results improved, Coslett's contract was not renewed, and the board appointed popular ex-Saint Billy Benyon.
They were, maybe a mid-table side, and you know, there was things that needed to be done, which obviously takes time, and obviously within a couple of years things were moving, and we needed a name, a superstar, to fit in to a side that I felt the nucleus of good young talent was there.
Coach Billy Benyon couldn't have been better pleased with the arrival of Australian Test ace Mal Meninga, who'd been signed by Saints for almost £30,000.
But coming tearing in hard, we can go to meet him.
The Burtonwood Brewery Lancashire Cup final drew a crowd of 26,000 to Central Park on October the 28th, 1984. Saints, showing off their latest captures from Queensland, fullback Phil Vevers and Aussie Test centre Mal Meninga, captained by Harry Pinner, romped home to Cup victory, scoring 26 points to Wigan's 18. And as Pinner lifted the cup, the side's barren 7-year spell was forgotten.
So St Helens come over to receive the trophy. St Helens are victors by 26 points to 18.
He was a great player, Mel, and scored a lot of tries for the club, and I think he made a player in Sean Day, because he put Sean out for a lot of tries as well. Very big impact on the club. Classic player, could play when he wanted to. Most naturally gifted player I've played with. Originally I just come here for the 12 months to get a bit of experience, and things just flowed on from there. You know, contract came after contract, and really, I suppose, the love affair with St Helens carried on.
There were high hopes for more silverware as Pinner made his 300th full first-team appearance in the Slalom Lager Premiership against Hull KR.
What better teams could we have to contest this Premiership trophy? Division 1 champions Hull KR and the runners-up in the Championship, St Helens. And one man finishing his one-year contract, Mal Meninga. He goes back to Australia this week, but what a fine season he's had for St Helens. And another sad day, Stan Wall, his last match of a fine career. Oh, very good ball out to Holding. To Meninga, well taken from Meninga. looking for the opportunity. He's got... Oh! Well, it's like tackling a man mountain, this guy. But St Helens still on the attack. Holding. To Peters, he's got Ledger with him. Can he make it to the corner? He will. He's got the legs. Excellent try. Beautiful play. 19 minutes to half-time. And St Helens take a commanding lead. No, Malmeninga. He's going for the line. It's a formality. It's there. To Hall. Oh, that's a goal. Oh, Meninga's got it again. Now then, he's a big man, but he's a fast man, this lad. It's a race between Fairbairn. Oh, Meninga. He's holding Gary Clark off and he'll score. What a try! Well, this man cost £30,000 for the season for St Helens. And now you know why this man's worth £1,500 a match. This St Helens pack now, looking to have the yard in speed. Harry Penner. Oh, he's going himself, and he's in. Yes! St Helens skipper puts his arm up in the air. He last won the Premiership trophy 8 years ago, and here he looks to be putting St Helens well on the path again. 30 points to 16 for St Helens. Oh, good run from Pinner. He's got Holding. He's got space. He's got Sean Allen coming up with him. Barry Ledger on the outside. He's got hold of it. Oh, and he's in for the corner. And a record score in the Premiership final. 36 points. And St Helens beat the previous best at 32. There's the hooter. Sheer delight.
Despite leading the club to its best campaign for almost 10 years, Bill Benyon is to leave his position as coach, sacked by the board, who blamed Benyon for falling attendances. His successor, Alex Murphy, hailed as the Messiah, returned to Knowsley Road after an absence of nearly 20 years. Alex spoke of his new appointment. I started my career here, and I hope to finish it here. All that's happened in the past is forgotten. Mr. Magic was under no illusions as to the team-building mission he'd embarked upon, although there would be financial help available from the recently launched Saints Alive Society, a private members club to help raise cash to buy players. There were some, however, who wouldn't figure in Murphy's future team.
I obviously went because Alex Murphy got rid of me. I'm still very upset about leaving Saints because I'd like to have thought that I may have coached there one day.
Within 16 months of his appointment, Alex had gathered a team which would play fast, entertaining rugby. One of the highlights of his second season was undoubtedly a slaughter in the sun, as Knowsley Road staged a Cumbrian massacre.
Good afternoon and welcome to Knowsley Road, the home of rugby league in St Helens. For today's first round Grunhaller Lancashire Cup tie, St Helens versus Carlisle. Over to Neil Holding, inside to Loughlin. Loughlin going through on his own, yes, and a brilliant try to the right of the post. Neil Holding runs up to active half-back position. Graham Littrot inside to Roy Haggerty in full flight. Looks to unload to Brett Clark. Brett Clark going forward. Looks to get through. Oh, brilliant ball by Clark. Out to Halliwell. How we got that ball out, I do not know.
Littrot again working the blind side to Andy Platt in the centre position. Platt looking for support. Finds Barry Ledger. And Ledger, like any wingman worth his salt, does the business. Holding Clark, Liptrot, Arkwright, pens them away, Chris Arkwright, looks for the support. Well, Roy Haggerty runs wide, finds the gap, looking for support, the ball to Barry Ledger. Thank you and good night.
Paul Loughlin to convert this goal from the touchline, and a brilliant goal by Paul Loughlin brings his tally up to 12 for today's match.
Saints need another try. Paul Loughlin fending one off. Oh, a great ball inside to Barry Ledger. Oh, great rugby. Ball pops out of the tackle. Andy Platt. Crowd roaring them on here. There's motivation now. Well, Barry Ledger's going under the sticks. What a superb score. 3 figures for the Saints. 3 figures. And there goes the final hooter. Well, Ron, what do you think about that?
A brilliant display. Saints backed up really tremendously. 32-0 at half-time. As we say, 80 points. 80 points this second half. Brilliant.
20 tries and 16 goals.
Paul Loughlin kicked his way into the record books, shattering the individual club scoring record, previously held since 1959 by Peter Ferris. 16 goals and 2 tries gave Loughlin a massive individual tally of 40 points.
And here we are, Neil Holding, 1987 Silk Cup Challenge Cup final underway. Saints in the white shirts from right to left, traditional red V. And Halifax, the shirt.
The sale of 22,000 Challenge Cup final tickets and the departure of 115 coaches and 7 special trains made St Helens a ghost town on Saturday the 2nd of May 1987, the day of the Challenge Cup final, Saints versus Halifax at Wembley.
Well, a penalty against Andy Platt for not lining up straight. And doesn't he look happy already, Alec Murphy? And he's missed it. It's very difficult here at Wembley for a kicker since they put this roof over the top of the main stands. 2 tackles. Clark. Oh, he's got Beavers and he knocked on. And there's the hooter. Half-time, the chance is gone there from Blake Clark. 40 minutes to go. Halifax 12, St Helens 10. But it's been the more methodical style of Halifax that's triumphed, holding them. Oh, that's a good ball to Mark Elia. He's got the wingman outside him. Oh, he's going round Graham Eady. He's beat him on the outside. What a try, and just the stamp St Helens needed. He beat Graham Eady with a change of pace. Neil Holding to put the ball in. Desperate for possession. Good heel from Liptrop. Elia. Oh, good one to Loughlin. He's got Ledger with him. He's going for the line himself. And he scored. Oh, well, what a reply from St Helens. Straight away. They do say that when a side has just scored, that's when they've relaxed, and back comes Paul Loughlin. Beautiful gully.
I would say Elia do very well, beat several players, and look at the pace and the strength of this young Loughlin. Shows the dummy here to Wolf George, he buys it, cuts inside, Gary Stevens can't reach him, and he has enough pace to reach the line for a lovely try.
Tricky kick for Loughlin, not a good one. Well to the right of the post. So, 18 points to 12 now for Halifax. Settling down, the substitute comes on, Paul Round, and he races in for his, and it's there. So just the one drop goal from John Penderbury now, the difference between the two sides.
This is the run round from Paul,
moving into a great cup final, I think. Clark, Arkwright, Beavers, and he must be in for the try. Marquinhos in for the second try. Magnificent rugby. No, it's no try. Referee John Holsworth right on the spot. Dramatic decision there by Holsworth, but right on the spot. Adjudged that it was no try. Now then, can St Helens go 100 yards in these closing seconds? They've got to throw the ball about. Paul Loughlin. Surely the whistle must be going. We're well into injury time now. Arkwright, this must be St Helens' last chance. There it is. There's the hooter. 1 point's the difference. The John Penderbury drop goal.
Narrowly defeated by 19 points to 18, Saints returned home to chants of "We'll support you evermore." The end of an era was signalled by the retirement of Mr. Harry Cook in May 1987 after a record 41 years as a director. Harry joined the board in 1946, spending 24 years as chairman. In recognition of his service, he was made an honorary life member of the club before being presented with a television set and a framed photograph of Wembley 1966. Hoping for the start of a memorable year for the club and its fans, Saints met Leeds, who are second in the league, for their first ever John Player Trophy final.
And Neil Holding, three very, very quick backs. McCormick is missing, he's out with a hamstring injury, but David Tanner, the ex-Fylde Rugby Union player, he comes in. Referee Fred Lindop in his last season with Rugby League, in his fourth John Player Special Trophy final. A good ball to Beavers. Mark Elia. Suto. Alex Murphy has used this big Welsh prop to pound down the middle, then usually bringing Stuart Evans on, who's still learning the game, to do the same thing. Oh, that's a good run from Platt. Andy Platt, number 13, usually a second row, but relishing the loose forward spot in the absence of skipper Chris Arkwright. Holding, oh, beautiful break, but a good tackle from Ray Ashton. These were the two scrum halves on the 1984 Great Britain tour. Ashton, that's a good run from Powell. He's got Schofield on his outside, he's got David Creaser. It's a run for the line with Groves. I think he'll beat Groves, and he does. Oh yes, excellent try. Creaser finished it off, but we should note there that it was Roy Powell, the drive, the strength of the man.
Yeah, I think so. They're allowing the runners to gain a lot of ground. There's always problems tackling a big fellow.
That's a good ball. It looks it. Oh no. Is it a try? Yes, it is. Forward momentum. That's the ruling. The Leeds supporters don't like it. He was tackled short of the line, but he slid the rest of the way, and the ruling is forward momentum takes you over. It's a try, and Fred Lindop perfectly positioned behind the post. Second attempt. And it's there, no problem. So, St Helens, first time in the lead, 8 points to 6. And the sixth tackle coming up now then. Will St Helens opt to run it? They will. Attempted drop by Neil Holding, and it's valuable, yes, 1 point. Well worth the attempt, just with a couple of minutes now to the half-time whistle.
We're off to the rugby, the second half. Leeds against St Helens for the JPS Trophy. Leeds winning 14-9 at half-time. Eric Fitzsimons and Ray French.
Holding again. Oh, that's a dangerous ball, but it's turned out well. Andy Platt to Forber. Lachlan. Good double from Lachlan, but he's on his own. Now then, can he make it to the line himself? And he does. Oh yes, what a try and what a reply from St Helens. I was only saying that here on Boxing Day at Central Park they had a magnificent comeback in the second half, and they started the show again. He get the goal kick. He does. Haggerty. Oh, and a beautiful ball from Haggerty to Platt. Offside.
That underlines the importance of the kicking game, which both sides have used, but leads to greater effect.
Good run by Roy Haggerty. And St Helens now firmly in the Leeds half for the first time for that good while. Oh, that's a good ball to Forber. Well, that was a wild pass. Holding, sensibly realising that it was the sixth tackle. 1 point difference. Leeds now pressing for that point. 15 points to 14 to St Helens. Leeds had all the pressure this half. And for my money, missed 3 or 4 drop goal chances. John Furbank. Oh, and Neil Holding's away. Good tackle. Good cover tackle there. Good loose forward play from Heron, but St Helens on the attack. Haggerty trying one of his drop goals. Now, can Leeds go to the other end of the field? He's lost it. That's a tragic loss. 30 seconds to go. Paul Forward driving for the line. Is he over? No. He'll be disappointed, the lad. Schofield. This is adventurous play. Good play. But well dropped. Well covered by Neil Holding. Acting in the role of the sweeper. There is the hooter. It's full time. It's all over.
Man of the match, Paul Lachlan, did most of the work to give Saints a 15 points to 14 victory, and to stamp the name of St Helens Rugby League Football Club on the John Player Special Trophy.
but what credit to both sides.
It was a different story at Wembley when Saints met arch-rivals Wigan in the 1989 Challenge Cup final, a final that Saints fans would rather forget. There was rumour plenty on Victoria Square for the now fallen heroes of the previous season who'd been beaten 27 points to 0, which resulted in a flood of letters of complaint to the reporter. Things hadn't got any better by the start of the next season after a poor first half against Castleford in the Stones Bitter Championship. The following week, Saints faced Runcorn in the Grunhalle Lager Lancashire Cup.
The ball now with Roy Haggerty. Keeps it going to Tommy Frodsham. Griffiths takes it well, unloads it quickly. Bailey, quick hands was essential there. It's back to Cooper. Griffiths, oh, lovely ball. On to Tommy Frodsham, no problem. Bangs it down, his first try with the Saints.
The tries came thick and fast. Vevers grabbed a hat-trick. Alan Hunt also grabbed 3. Paul Loughlin scored 2 tries and kicked 11 goals, giving him a personal tally of 30 points. The game as a contest was all over by half-time, as former Saints assistant coach Dave Chisnell watched his side outgunned by a faster and classier Saints outfit. The avalanche of points continued to take the final score to 78 points to 10. The following week, fortunes changed yet again for Saints. The game against Oldham in the second round of the Lancashire Cup was barely 10 minutes old when Roy Haggerty flattened former Saints player John Fieldhouse and was immediately sent off.
Roy Haggerty and John Fieldhouse, I think it is, just sparring up. Well, it looks as though Haggerty's been sent off. Well, that's all we need, isn't it?
Things went from bad to worse for Saints. The score at half-time of 14-2 went on to a humiliating 36 points to 6 for Oldham.
Still going. Well, inside ball to forward to the over. Well, certainly look forward from Casey to forward, but full marks there to Casey. Powered his way through. And that's a killer.
The Yo-Yo Saints, 2 weeks later, sounded a message to Rugby League that they're on the way back after a crushing victory over Featherstone Rovers. A game which saw Saints debut boy George Mann impress the crowd with an amazing 30-yard try just before half-time.
Oh, well, looked a hint of a trip there, the final tackle. Being, well, all over there, Bell, he's all over him. Frodsham now in possession. Into space, Frodsham! Keep it on his left, Frodsham keeps going. Brilliant break from Frodsham there now, and Saints with the tails up. Got to spread it quickly, Grayson, he can't get back. Offside. Well, look at Mann! Look at him go! Watch him power his way! Oh, brilliant try from George Mann! He took the ball 35 yards out. He powered his way through. Tremendous pace. And he scores a try on his home debut.
The Saints continued to ruffle Rovers' feathers, bringing the game to conclusion with a 50 points to 11 win. The most recent member on the Knowsley Road payroll would make more of a difference off the field than on.
The reason I became involved with Saints in 1989, Alan, was through treating Eric Hughes at the time with a bad back at my private practice at home. And I was telling Eric how that particular week Maurice Lindsay had offered me the job at Wigan and then offered such a lowly amount of money that it was a laugh, really. And I think that was mainly because he didn't want to employ a woman, because at that time there was only Viv Gleave at Widnes involved in the game. And I was telling Eric how I wasn't going to look after the Wigan team anymore for nothing in my lunch hour if that's the way he wanted it. So Eric, next time I was treating Eric, he said, oh, I've had a word with Alex. And he was Alex Murphy's assistant at the time. And he said, would you like to come to St Helens? We're not particularly happy with who we've got. And to be honest, I didn't give it much thought. I said, yeah, I'd love to come, but I didn't think they'd employ a woman because there was only one in the game at that time. And sure enough, they did. You know, they took the chance, if you like, in inverted commas.
Some of the best rugby league players ever brought magical memories flooding back for the 15,000 fans who packed the terraces at Knowsley Road on Sunday the 7th of October 1990, prior to the start of the game against Australia. The celebrations are to mark the 100 years of rugby at Knowsley Road. Grateful applause rang out for the Matt Busby of Rugby League, ex-chairman Mr Harry Cook, and a rousing reception too for Vinty Corellius. But Tom Vollenhoven, arguably the most popular in the club's history, brought the greatest cheer from the crowd. Unfortunately, the Aussies came away with a resounding 34 points to 4 success.
So all is set for the final between the top team St Helens and the second Wigan. St Helens triumphant, undefeated, having beaten Wigan once, and here we go. Ropati hands it inside to Saints, trying to batter the way out of the own 20-metre zone. On to Nicol coming charging in, and Wigan penalised in the second tattle. Saints get the ball from the scrum. Ropati gets the ball. Good play by St Helens. Move it across. Wigan coming in. Connolly's missed the ball. Referee going to give Wigan the penalty for an obstruction. Botica then stabs at it, and it looks a beauty. And it's a lovely kick, a great kick, Carl.
Certainly was, John.
Cooper, Griffiths, and that ball slipped inside. Lydon's going across, takes it in the in-goal area. That was a dangerous, testing little kick there. Harrison again, he's had a good game this half as Harrison, and once again he slips the ball, and it's caused Wigan trouble as Nicol decides he wants to run through everybody. But Harrison letting this ball go very dangerously. Edwards coming in, and a bit of battling going on right on half-time. What a pity, it's been such a good game so far, but it's so fierce, it's so tense out there. Are we going to get a sin bin? Joe Lydon coming up behind the play of the ball. Joe running across field, not an inch of ground gained. Crowd not happy. Lydon giving a penalty away right in front of his post. Stabs at it, and it's there. Great row from St Helens. Very unprofessional play by Joe Lydon. Referee says the tattle is on the shoulders. A Saint drive up to into the Wigan 20, and they're going for the line, and ball's lost over the line. Wigan running it out. And a bit of trouble going on in the in-goal area, Carl. And the touch judge is on. A good final being ruined. My people with a lack of control. Plays it quickly onto Forber. Forber's cut out. Referee having a word, not happy about what happened then, and he's penalised Wigan, and this could put Saints within 1 point. Left-footed from the right-hand side of the field, he should get this. He stabs, and it's there in the middle. 12 minutes to go, 1 point separates them. Oh, and that was a thumb. There's going to be trouble. Going to be trouble. He had a go to fire then.
Well, stupid play from Nicol. The fire was on the floor then. He wasn't going anywhere. Nicol came in with a punch. I really think now Nicol has to walk. St Helens have gone and blown this game.
And the fire has the ball. A fire has the ball, and there goes the hooter. Wigan have won the Lancashire Cup. Third time lucky for Wigan. Here we are at Knowsley Road for the annual Yuletide clash between St Helens and Wigan. This could well be the match that decides the championship. Wigan riding at the top of the league, 2 points ahead of St Helens. A great crowd here today, looking forward to a great match. Man taken, man and ball, and he's still going and he won't go down. Wigan getting in each other's way, comes to Hunt. Hunt coming inside, his feet go from under him. Dwyer, short one, Saints hammering away at the Wigan line. Good tackling takes him. Nicol trying to batter his way through. And Wigan in untold trouble, 5 tackles gone. And he dives over. He dives over from the play of the ball after 17 minutes. pressing, 10 points to 6. Saints ball from the scrum. Couldn't do much with that. It comes to Connolly. And there's a big gap. He goes striding for the line. Hampson coming over. Out to and Hunt is in at the corner. Well, that was moved well. Cooper sends a long one. Driving for the line. And that was desperate and a good last-ditch tackle. Saints trying to hammer the way over and they're in underneath the post. Dwyer from the play of the ball coming round the narrow side. Skerritson, he lets the ball go. Cooper holding it, makes a gap a mile wide. Hands it on to Nicol, and Nicol has his feet taken from under him. Still fighting his way forward. Goes down, 5 metres out, and the touch judge is on. This going to result in a penalty. Signalling that a thump has gone in. Touch judge has told the tale. I thought he'd held the yellow card. No, he's just giving the penalty. Loughlin stabs at it, and it's a beauty. Wigan on the receiving end, and there goes the hooter for what has been a tremendous first half. 1 minute gone, and they're causing devastation in the Wigan ranks as O'Donnell puts in the grubber kick, but it's got and it's loose. What the referee gives the try. Vivers lobbing it out to the Hunt wing. Hunt turning down the wing. Hunt for the line, going for the line, puts in a kick. Bags of St Helens players there to take it. Trying to get out, Nicol going for the line, and he's in. Nicol breaking through, he has support, still going on his own, taking it out to the wing. Nicol going for the line, he had support, he should have given it. Connolly from behind to play the ball, Donald moving it across. Saints going for the Wigan line, and they're over underneath the post. 5 minutes from the end. And there's the 41. Edwards puts in the grubber kick, being chased, and it's covered, and Saints have it on their own now. And there goes the hooter. The end of a tremendous Boxing Day derby.
The 19th season of the Premiership final as we know it now, and two great teams contesting it. The champions, Wigan, against the runners-up St Helens. Saints just runners-up on points difference. Excellent tackling by Wigan. The last tackle of the sequence. Cooper takes it blindside. He grubbers it through. Connolly, can he score? Yes, Connolly's in! Connolly goes in for the first try, the first score of the game, with only 2 minutes to the interval. Saints in possession. On to Alan Hunt now. Time running out in this first half. Well, there just as I speak. But the half-time score here at Old Trafford in the Premiership final is Saints 4, Wigan 0. The last tackle of the sequence. Gus O'Donnell well positioned, but Saints take it out blindside. Chris Joint chips it through. Is it all on? Wigan have the ball on their own line there. It looks like Cowie in possession, John. Even though Wigan are men down, if the Saints come up there and press them, as Griffiths chips it through, can he win the chase for the line? Yes, Griffiths is in! No, he's not. The try's not given.
To Edwards, Edwards holding it. Edwards gets a short one, turned inside. Wigan still going, lobbing it out. Going for the line, Robinson's in. Wigan equalise. Wigan equalise.
Saints now, pressing on the Wigan line. Overlap on the left. Chris Joint up to Griffiths. It's tidied up by O'Donnell. Is he going for the one-pointer? He is. He makes sure, puts pressure on Wigan. O'Donnell with another one-pointer. Held down short again. Tremendous tackling by Wigan. But it's Saints in possession, moving it along the line. Quick hands, the order of the day. Good hands, Rapati. Lyon, and Loughlin. Loughlin's in! And Loughlin raises his arm and puts the Saints further in the lead by 10 points to 4 with only 5 minutes of this final to go. 3 minutes of stoppage time we've played. Saints in the lead, 10 points to 4.
and just looking to slow the game down as they have possession. Alan Hunt loses possession, Wigan come up with it, and Alan Hunt redeems himself, and there's the final hooter. And the Saints have won the Premiership trophy in 1992-93. And Shane Cooper up there receiving the trophy. He kisses it, raises it aloft, and he's a big grin all over his face. He salutes the crowd, and especially there as he thumps the air down to Saints physio Jeanette Smith. See her at party.
Saints chairman Eric Ashton, on Saturday the 8th of April 1995, had pledged the club's future to a controversial 14-team Super League, which promises to bring guaranteed cash for 5 years, the chance to strengthen the squad, and the opportunity to improve ground facilities in the switch to summer rugby, a package deal with Rupert Murdoch's News Corporation worth £75 million. The recommendation from Rugby League is that a chief executive and an accountant would be an advantage in the Super League.
We've appointed David Howes, who will take charge at this club from July 1st.
The events of the last month and a half have been very traumatic for the game, but they have in fact evolved two factors that are relevant to the game of rugby football. One is that the Super League philosophy is here. The Murdoch money is in the game. The need to upgrade the game and complete at national and international level is now part and parcel of the fabric of rugby league football.
David Howes started his career in journalism, becoming, by the age of 22, number 4 in the head office of the Hull Daily Mail evening newspaper. A year later, in 1974, he became the first ever public relations officer for the Rugby League, later becoming responsible for the introduction of the league's sponsorship portfolio, attracting more than £15 million. David introduced United's Old Trafford as a big match venue in 1986. He's helped to raise more than £250,000 for players' benefits, and on February the 2nd, 1994, he was given life membership of the Rugby Football League, the youngest ever recipient of the highest honour in the game.
Very much what I'll be trying to do is run the club in a business-like manner, but bringing more and more the people of St Helens into this ground. This is a family club, and the family of the St Helens family is going to get bigger and bigger, and the club has to and will be competing on that world stage on behalf of this community.
It's back to the future for Saints. They've gone back 100 years to unveil a new look for the Rugby League centenary season. Masters past and present, Alex Murphy and Bobby Goulding, get together with St Helens' new boy, 21-year-old Dean Busby, back row forward from Hull, to show off the new strip. Another signing at the beginning of the centenary season for an undisclosed amount of bones has become the fans' favourite.
Please welcome to the pitch St Bernard and the...
St Bernard has his own character and a very cheeky one as well. But what amazed me, to be fair, was the way it was not just adapted by the kids so quickly, but adopted very, very swiftly by the adults. And in fact, in many cases, when we brought the first range of merchandise in, we did kids' range first, and we were inundated with complaints. It was the adults that wanted to wear it. And it's definitely become a cult figure.
A masterpiece in public relations saw supporters flock to Knowsley Road on August the 3rd, 1995. This was the start of David Howe's promise to make the facility a centre of entertainment for families and the community. Impromptu games, photograph and autograph sessions with the stars, tours of the ground and high-tech gymnasium were just part of the evening's proceedings.
You know that this is the new Saints captain. We have a round of applause for his appointment. And that will make him, when it starts, the youngest captain in the Super League.
Bobby Goulding, who's taking over the captaincy from Shane Cooper, came to Knowsley Road from Widnes during the close season of 1994, and in his first term at Saints made 36 appearances, scored 347 points via 148 goals and 11 tries. He was the youngest ever Lions tourist at 18 and starred in Great Britain's Test victory over Papua New Guinea and New Zealand in 1990.
We're delighted to announce that Carl is our second major signing this year, after Dean Busby, who of course was signed after a tribunal ruling for 80,000 plus 20 as and when he plays for Great Britain. Carl joins us as an £85,000 signing, making him the second highest straightforward fee, second only to our captain on the end, Bobby Goulding, who came to witness with a tribunal fee, as you know, of £135,000.
Yeah, other clubs were interested, but I'm very impressed with the setup at Saints. They've got a good policy on youth, a real good base to start your Super League on, with the likes of Bobby, myself, and a really red young Kieran Cunningham.
Saints gave notice of their Super League title ambitions by securing Paul Newlove's signature in the face of stiff competition from renowned big spenders Wigan and Leeds. The announcement of his signing attracted the nation's press and TV, and they were kept waiting for more than an hour as the finalisation of the deal, which had continued for much of the previous night, was drawn to a conclusion.
This is the type of player that Wigan have bought, you know, for the past 7-8 seasons, and St Helens need to buy this player. They've gone out in recent seasons with people like Bobby Goulding, people like Scott Gibbs, now people like Paul Newlove, and hopefully for the club this will be the sign of things to come. You have to have these players if you want to win things.
The £500,000 world record signing made his maximum security debut at Knowsley Road on the 3rd of December against Workington Town, scoring his first try for the club in the 75th minute, triggering the biggest cheer of the afternoon from the 7,000 crowd. For some fans, however, the Saints' 58-10 victory was tinged with sadness as they remembered Bernard Dwyer, Paul Lachlan and Sonny Nicol, who'd been sold to Bradford as part of the £500,000 deal which brought Paul Newlove to Knowsley Road in the dog-eat-dog world of modern sport. Rumour and speculation in the national press that Australian coach Sean McRae is set to replace Knowsley Road coach Eric Hughes were confirmed as the club made its announcement on January the 24th, 1996.
We're delighted on behalf of the board of St Helens to welcome Sean here. We've stated before that our ambitions are to compete in the Super League not only here in Britain but abroad. And to bring a man of the calibre of Sean McRae into the club just strengthens just how seriously we are taking the Super League itself.
David Howes paid tribute to the departing Eric Hughes, saying that he was as nice a man as you could ever wish to meet, and that he thanked him for his work in developing the club's youth policy. Nearby Warrington Rugby League Football Club have appointed former Saints legendary Alex Murphy as their new director of football, and former Wigan boss John Dorahay, who takes over the coaching reins. Changes at Warrington have come about following the club's humiliating defeat of 80-0 by Saints in the semi-finals of the Regal Trophy 2 weeks ago. On 8 consecutive occasions since 1988, the Challenge Cup has been lifted at Wembley by the same club, Saints' deadly arch-rivals Wigan. However, in the 5th round of the 1996 Silk Cut Challenge Cup, the predictable pie-eaters were knocked off their perch by Salford Reds, 26 points to Wigan's 16. And in the 6th round, Saints beat Salford 46 points to 26. It seemed as though some were almost predicting what the outcome would be at Central Park as Saints faced Widnes in the semi-final. The Knowsley Roaders produced razor-sharp tackles to repel the brave challenges of a Widnes side who, despite playing catch-up rugby all afternoon, were pushed out of the cup by 24 points to 14. Cup fever has gripped the town of St Helens. The mass exodus, expected to be more than 20,000, has already begun. It's 20 years since the coveted Silk Cut Challenge Cup was brought back to the town after a 20-5 win over Widnes. St Helens have lost on 4 subsequent visits. Bradford Bulls, Saints' Wembley opponents, last won the trophy
and illustrates that. We don't produce any of our own figures, our facts, our surveys.